This day in black baseball history. This is Phil Dixon coming to you tonight on a Sunday, and this is the Sunday, December 14th edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. Hey, I'm ready to start talking tonight and give you a little bit of history of great things that happened on this day, December the 14th. So, are you ready? Okay, I'm ready. And I have so many things I want to talk about that I don't need to waste any time in getting right to it. So, just want to thank everybody for joining. If you're joining or if you happen to join, I'll say this a couple of times. Let me know where you're joining from. I may know something about the area you come from. And let me get a little more light here. That might help. Let me get a little more light here. Yeah, I know I might know something about the area you come from, maybe a little history about that area. So go ahead and be sure to let me know the city and the state or the country you're coming from. All right, all of that makes a difference to me. So do want to thank everybody for joining. My light's a little bright here. Just wanted to see if I can get it going right here. We'll keep it bright. We'll keep it bright. So, all right. All right, now I don't like that at all. Okay. All right. So we're going to jump right in here and start with some baseball facts. So December 14th, we're going to go back to 1918. William Pope was born in Birmingham, Alabama. And I happened to interview William Pope. I met him many years ago in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania when I was there. So I didn't get a chance to interview Mr. Pope. Now, Mr. Pope first came on my radar in the 1970s because I lived in Colorado Springs, and back then they had a set that had come out of baseball cards, maybe around 1951, 52, of the Colorado Springs Sky Sox. And it had three African American players in the set. Now, I had the entire set, but one of those players was, of course, Mr. Pope. Another one was Connie Johnson. You probably remember Clifford Connie Johnson, who pitched for the Baltimore Orioles and the White Sox. And, of course, Sam Hairston. And this Colorado Spring Sky Sox were a part of the Chicago White Sox farm system. And so Sam Hairston was a big star out there, by the way. And they all played for the Sky Sox. So that's where I first picked him up. And, of course, the manager of that team was Don Gutteridge. And then I did interview Don Gutteridge. He was from Pittsburgh, Kansas. So I had a chance to interview Don. Don was a manager of the White Sox when I was a kid. I remember him taking over the team, I think, after Eddie Stanky, if I'm correct, in the 1960s. I'm not sure the order, but he certainly was in 1960. 69. So once again, if you're joining me, go ahead and put in your city where you're joining me from. Just want to say hello to everybody. So anyway, Pope will go on to play with the Pittsburgh Crawfords, the Homestead Grays, played in the Canadian League, and of course the minor leagues. And his career was about 1944 to 1955. And he had a brother, Dave Pope. Now, Dave Pope, I recently talked to his daughter not too long ago and met a number of members of his family, his grandkids, and everybody when I was up in Cleveland for an event there. And Dave Pope was his younger brother, and he was quite the player. And of course, he ended up coming up with the Cleveland Indians. Bill never did, or William Pope never did come up. And let's see. After his baseball career ended, Bill ended up working for 25 years for the city of Pittsburgh. And he also owned a restaurant, and it was called Pope's Place. And if you live in Pittsburgh, it's at 4138 Murray Avenue in Pittsburgh. And I hear it's still there. All right. So anyway, that's a little bit on William Pope, born on this day, December 14th, 1918. Let me say hello to a few people. Excuse me there. Somebody says, I'm happy to be a part of the Negro League. All right, great. And somebody says they're following from Omaha, Nebraska. All right, man, that's one of my favorite cities. I go there often. Omaha, man. Omaha has some rich history, too. I think about a guy named Dangerfield Talbert who's buried there. And there was a great catcher there, too. Oh, man, he came along. He played with George Wilson, played with the Patriots Giants. I'll call his name in a moment, but yeah, he was a great catcher from Omaha too. So just a lot of great history in Omaha. Yeah, it's right up the highway from me, so I go there often. All right. Oh yeah, somebody said Bob Gibson. How can you forget Bob Gibson in Omaha? Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think Bob Gibson had a restaurant in Omaha for a while, if I'm correct on that. Yeah, Bob passed away just a few years ago, but he was certainly a grand player during the I think he came up in '59, but he was certainly a great player all through the '60s and through the early part of the '70s. All right, let's keep it going. Since we're talking about pitchers, I'm glad you brought up that topic because the next guy I'm going to talk about is a pitcher. How about this one? December 14, 1925, Samuel Jones, a.k.a. Two-Pick Sam, is born in Stewartsville, Ohio. And he's got to be probably the most famous person from Stewartsville. I don't know if you can top that. And he was a Negro leaguer and played in the Negro American National League. And also his career from 1951 to 1964 in of course, what we would call the National American League. And then he led the National League in strikeouts and walks 3 times. So he led them in strikeouts and walks on three occasions. 1955, 1956, and 1958. And of course, some of you might remember that he was the first African-American pitcher to throw a no-hitter in the major leagues when he beat the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1955. Now, I remember talking to Marlon Carter. Marlon Carter played third base for the Memphis Red Sox. I have some great stories about Marlon Carter. But we would talk about the time that he and Sam Jones were members of the same team in Rochester, Minnesota in 1949. And he actually gave me a couple of pictures or allowed me to make copies of these pictures from the time that they were together in Rochester, Minnesota. Now, this is all predating the time that he ended up spending in the major leagues. So this is when they were trying to make their way to the big leagues. Of course, Carter never got there. And then Jones, who was much younger, ended up getting an opportunity. So, yeah, and that's how I initially learned more about Sam Jones. And, yeah, so somebody says, talking about Sam Jones, that's a true fact, that Sam Jones and Quincy Troop. Now, I did interview Quincy Troop. They became the first battery. Now, the battery is a pitcher and catcher in the black battery in the American League. That was in 1950, I want to say 52. Yeah, 1952. Now, keep in mind, that's going to be a real trivia question because in this particular case, Troop only played 6 games for Cleveland and didn't play for any other team. So he spent 6 games in the major leagues, but he was there, and he and Two-Pick Sam Jones made that bit of history. That is absolutely correct. I think Bob Poet's on here, and I appreciate that. Yeah, so hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, the last name, right? Okay. Somebody said, do the stanky leg. Hey, look, if you follow baseball, you probably remember Eddie Stanky, right? One thing about it, when I was a kid, I collected baseball cards. I knew all these names, and then I would go to the park. And when I used to go down to Municipal Stadium and the players would walk up the ramp, I didn't have to have the number because I had looked at their baseball cards so much that I would recognize their faces when they walked past me. And the interesting thing was, at the old Municipal Stadium, when the Royals played, the home dugout had a exit in it that you could go out of the exit through the dugout. But the visiting dugout didn't have an exit, so they had to walk up the ramp and they had to go past the people. And that's where I would see all these guys that had baseball cards. It was so fun to go down and just watch these guys and actually see the faces of people who you were seeing their faces all the time, but you never really had a chance to actually see them in person. But it was amazing. As a little kid, you would see them in person. You actually knew who they were. All right. So let's go to another one. All right. December 14th, 1928. All right, now remember, if you're joining me, a couple of things you can do, which really help me a lot. You can subscribe if you like this kind of information, and also let me know what city you're from. So I think I did see someone said that they were from Omaha, Nebraska. I appreciate that. Okay, so here we go again. December the 14th, 1928. The New York Wrens down the Philadelphia Spas, and that they spelled their name SPHAS, and that stood for the South Philadelphia Hebrew Association, and in basketball, professional basketball action at Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, in the game, Clarence Jenkins dropped 3 shots from the field and one from the charity stripe. You know that they still use that term for free throw, the charity stripe? That's kind of old school, isn't it? But anyway, and the Wrens ended up winning that game 34-28, and the team would go on that year to post a 107 wins and 19 losses. Now, here's a little trivia fact for you, in case you didn't know it. Remember John Wooden used to coach UCLA? What's interesting, there was one guy from my hometown, Lucius Allen, who went to the same high school I did, who went and played for UCLA. But one thing that people do not know, John Wooden, he played for the old original Celtics in a professional basketball league, and they played the Wrens all the time. And he told this story himself, how he admired how Fast Jenkins ran his team, and they played a game of unselfish basketball. And so later on, when he became a coach and became a successful coach, this is John Wooden, he patterned the unselfish play that he had saw Fats Jenkins orchestrating with the Wrens is the style of play he brought to his own team. And somebody said, who is that? One of my high school teachers was a teammate of John Wooden's at Purdue. All right, then. Yeah, I don't know. Did you know that John Wooden played for the original Celtics? All right, then. Okay, so that's a little bit of history there. Let's keep it going, because Fats Jenkins, this time of year, he puts up a lot of basketball interest. Now, Fats Jenkins is also an outfielder with the New York Black Yankees. All right? Okay. Okay, they put the name Norm Cotton was his name. All right, then. Thank you very much for that. And hey, I learn things every day. I'm going to go back and look at some of these, and I will look up some of these facts as well. All right, so that first fact came from 1928. So let's jump 10 years. Fats Jenkins is still around. So December 14, 1938, the New York Wrens basketball team with 2 Negro League players on it, Clarence Fats Jenkins, all right, he was one of them. Of course, Zach Clayton is another one. Zach Clayton, I mentioned him a few days ago. He was a great boxing referee later on. So I'm sure he boxed somewhere, either amateur or professional. I'm looking this up. But he was certainly a great baseball player and played for the New York Black Yankees and a few other teams. We're talking about Zach Clayton now. Well, we know Fats Jenkins played baseball as well. Well, they go on to defeat the Fisher basketball team of Flint, Michigan, 31-30 in front of 1,500 fans at the local IMA auditorium. All right, so okay, let's keep it going. All right, so now we're going to jump up to December 14th, 1953. All right, let's see if you know this name. Emmett Ashford is signed as the first African-American umpire in baseball's Pacific Coast League. Okay, so to begin his career as an umpire, Ashford took a leave of absence from his job of 15 years of working with the post office, all right? And so, hey, this guy didn't know if this baseball was really going to work. But anyway, he goes on and he becomes the first African-American to be a umpire in the American League. I think it was with the American League. I'm sure it was. But anyway, that's Emmett Ashford. And I was in California just right before the pandemic. It was February, right before the pandemic. I think I made one more speaking engagement before the pandemic actually hit. But his daughter was there. And the last time I think I saw her, remember those homes that caught on fire in Los Angeles? And this was probably about a year ago. I think I saw his daughter on the news talking about it, and I sure would love to reach out to her. I'm gonna have to try that and see how she's doing because I'm almost sure that was her. And so that was Emmett Ashford. And so, hey, he had to take a leave of absence from his job at the post office. Do guys still do this kind of stuff? So anyway, that's Emmett Ashford. Yeah, okay. And there's some great pictures of him out there when he became an umpire. Real colorful ump. All right, he didn't just call you out; he called you out, and you love being called out because he made it look so fabulous. All right. So remember now, if you are joining me and you want to mention where you're from, go ahead and do that. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and hit subscription or subscribe. All right. So that's Emmett Ashford. And of course, Ashford was from California. He graduated from Thomas Jefferson High School. And how about this? He graduated in 1933. So remember, he had that little space where he's working at the post office before he gets to the Pacific Coast League in 53. And he was his class president. And he was class president at a predominantly white institution. So has probably had some leadership skills that were recognized right from the very beginning. All right, let's keep it going. Let's go to December 14th, 1960. Man, we're moving through the ages, right? Okay, how about this one? Charles Edward Hinton, Chuck Hinton, that's what he was called on my baseball cards, okay, is drafted by the expansion Washington American League Senators from the Orioles is a 46th pick in 1960. Of course, that's the expansion draft. Now, interesting thing about Hinton, there was a guy named Paul Richards. He really valued Hinton, and he wanted Hinton to stay with the Orioles. So he tried to get Hinton to fake an injury. And I think Hinton actually did that, faked an injury like he hurt his shoulder crashing into the wall. And so hopefully no other team would pick him up. But how about this? Washington went ahead and picked him up anyway, and the rest is history. Washington, the old Washington Senators, right? But that Senators didn't last long. If I'm correct, I think, well, no, I won't go from there. I won't start that because it's making me go down a rabbit trail, and I'm not sure if I can get back. Okay, so anyway, I will say this. After his playing career ended in 1971, he took a manager's job at Howard University and worked in that capacity for 28 long seasons. Yeah, boy, and I was just looking here. I have this great book, this great book, and name of it is The History of Athletics and Physical Education at Howard University by Ted Chambers. And Ted actually signed this book for me and autographed it for me, believe it or not, in 1987. So I've had a chance to read up on a lot of Howard sports through Ted Chambers' book. And books are important to me because a lot of the information I'm relaying to you today comes from books, okay? So I've got one more to go. Once again, if you're in here and you like what I'm doing, go ahead and subscribe. So, all right, so we're going to go to December 14th, 1980. Now, this is my last one of the day. So after that, I'm going to pretty much get out of here. It looks like we're going to get out right about 20 minutes today. Somebody says, what is my jersey today? My jersey today is the Homestead Grays, all right? Homestead Gray. I try to wear a different jersey as much as I can. Guys, you have to have a lot of jerseys when you're broadcasting daily. And so I do have my Homestead Grays. And this is my office. You can kind of see I got my picture of Ruth Foster, some of the people, my inspirations. That picture straight up the middle is Joe Green, who I had a chance to meet down in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Over here, the top there, you can see that's Babe Ruth. You know who Babe Ruth is. Or let's see, who else I have in there? I have a photograph sitting next to that light there, and that is Satchel Paige with the Bob Feller Tour. And then I'm trying to think this, that picture there, the third one down is Ernie Banks. And the second row here, this picture right here, this picture right, I don't know if I can do it right there in the middle, that is a recognition, a certificate that came from Major League Baseball when we merged and worked on merging the statistics, the Negro League statistics with the Major League statistics, and that is a kind of significant recognition that I got from Major League Baseball. All right. So, all right then. So here we go. Last one for tonight. It's going to be December 14th, 1980. Elston Gene Howard. Now, did you know that Elston Howard's middle name was Gene? It's interesting. Um, Many times we think about these baseball players, and some of them go by nicknames, and we don't really know their names unless you study these names. I know sometimes I think about Yogi Berra, who played with the Yankees. Do you know Yogi's first name? A lot of people didn't know it was Lawrence. All right, and or I remember Connie Mack. Reading about Connie Mack when I was a kid, I was just amazed to learn that his name was Cornelius. Okay, and so you just all these different things, but it's all baseball. And if you love baseball, these are the things that we kind of grew up on, and these are the things that keep you involved. They kept me involved in the game. That's what I'll mention. All right, so here we go. Elston Gene Howard, former Kansas City Monarchs catcher and outfielder for the New York Yankees, died in New York City. This guy was a two-time Gold Glove winner and 1963 American League MVP. And in 1947, how about this one? This is a trivia fact for you. 1947, the year he graduated from Vashon High School. Now, that's a famous high school in St. Louis, still there. Howard attended a St. Louis Cardinals July baseball clinic. And so these guys were good ball players, wanted to get in the St. Louis Cardinal organization. But the St. Louis Cardinals were just going through the motion. So they passed on Elston Howard. And it turned out to be a for whites only clinic. So they weren't intending to sign any black ball players. They were looking for white ball players. And Elston Howard was one of 3 or 4 really good black ball players that showed up from St. Louis. Okay, and none of the African American players ever received a letter from the Cardinals. And of course, Elston Howard ends up signing with the Kansas City Monarchs. From the Kansas City Monarchs, he goes to the Kansas City team, the Blues in the American Association, and he ends up being the first African American to play with the New York Yankees. And that is history, baseball history. And this is history for tonight, December the 14th. And this is the December 14, 2025 edition of this history. And guys, I might also mention another group of books that I use. And you can buy these books. I am a reader of great books, all right? And I own some really good books. And this, when he was writing this series, this is Arthur Ashe, right? Hard World, Road to Glory. When he was writing this series, I was in contact with him. And so actually I have letters from Arthur Ashe where we're talking about baseball facts and history facts, and I'm giving him information. He's sending information to me. There was another guy who was heavily involved with it named Ocania Chalk. And Ocania, he wrote a book, Blacks in College Baseball, which is really difficult to find, but it's a good book if you can find that book by Ocania. And this is the other volume. So it's like more than one volume to this different volume. You kind of see there. But it's loaded with history. And so when I'm talking to you about a lot of this history, I have to get it from somewhere because, some of this history just isn't getting talked about. It's a lot of fun to talk about, first of all. And if you watch the Baseball Network like I do, sometimes it can get kind of boring. As much as I love baseball, I can only listen to some of the things they talk about for a limited amount of time. And what you find out is, in some of these cases, you've got far more knowledge than some of these guys who are speaking. And so that's why I decided to come and use this venue. So I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. I hope I didn't put my finger up there and get all in the way. If you like what I'm doing, guys, we're trying to grow the network, and I'm going to keep talking as long as there's someone who wants to hear. And if you enjoy baseball as much as I do, this would be a good place for you. And guess what, guys? You gave me a few things out here tonight. I'm going to go and I'm going to look up a few things myself too. And so anyway, that does it for me tonight, guys. Hey, I will also tell you, because I follow different broadcasts, and when I see it live, I see people come in with a whole lot of nonsense, guys. Let me tell you, you know, this is a time that we can all grow in our knowledge because we have at our disposal tools that can deliver information that we could never get on the nightly news, or we'd have to go down to the library and dig. But now we can actually find good information, and we can find it quicker. So I hope that you would look at this broadcast as one of the places you can come to find great information. So guys, that does it for me. Don't want to belabor too much because I have to come back tomorrow. So excuse me there. I have to come back tomorrow and do it all over again. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And this is this is my goodbye for tonight. And I'll see you tomorrow with another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History.